All right. So I just logged in with Nate. This is the fourth conversation,
Worth.
and we were just saying hi, and I looked at my notes, and it was exactly a year and a day since our last chat. So I'm excited to hear what you've been up to, and where you are, because that's always a big guess too. So yeah. So what's been going on?
Yeah. So I'll get the most obvious one out of the way. I'm in Philly. Um,
Okay.
so
Okay.
boring answer. I could be anywhere like in the world, but no, I'm
Right.
back in Philly. The last time you and I spoke, I was
I
I
think you
went
were
back
back then.
home to my mom and dad's. Yeah, I
Yeah.
left Mexico and I had gone back to be with my mom and dad for the summer before I decided on where to go next. Shortly after you and I spoke, I went back to Mexico
Okay.
for a few months and then moved back to Philly uh, beginning of December and have been here
Okay.
since. So I have an apartment downtown and have been here since December.
Cool.
Yeah.
And where did you go in Mexico? Back to Playa
I
or?
went back to Playa. I was there all like October and November. And then my lease in Playa was up like on December 1st. And I was just like, do I go back to the States? Do I go somewhere else? Do I renew? Like, I didn't really want to stay there. Uh, and I think I was just getting really overwhelmed with where should I go next? Uh, that I just was like, okay, you know what? Just do like a year lease in Philly until you figure things out. So that's what I did.
Great. Great.
Yeah.
And how's that been going?
Um, it's been okay. I feel like I lost. I've kind of like fallen out of love with this city. Like before
Hmm.
Mexico, I had lived here for 8 years, or like seven
Oh wow.
years.
Okay.
Um, and there was like a lot of hype around me coming back here, where it was like, you're sort of like this new person doing this new career, and like everything's changed about you. You're gonna go back to Philly, very new person, and you can take advantage of like maybe like what you couldn't have taken advantage of the city before
Hmm.
all this, like before you left Mexico. Um, I haven't really felt any of those like effects. I
Mm.
I think Philly has kind of been. I don't want to say this, but it's been a disappointment.
Okay.
Um, so yeah,
That happens.
yeah,
And
that's kind of
sometimes you got to go somewhere, and it's a guess, and it may not be what you're looking for. My relationship to New York has just changed so much over the years, and it continues to change. I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about it. And I think the travel that I do is to balance that question a little bit. It's like to fill in the pieces that aren't here. So,
right.
um, um, what's been going on work wise? You know,
Uh,
you had been scaling up and sort of grappling with, being more at an agency size. Uh,
oh man, yes, that's accurate. Uh, so that was like an exercise in like scaling up. Fast forward to now, like we've scaled down. Yeah, tremendously. Yeah, everything's changed with the business, honestly. Um, what happened was I think the last time we spoke, I had, oh gosh, like 9 or 10 like subcontractors, and we were trying to do like everything and blah blah blah. And then in December, when I moved back, I think it was like the first week I moved back, I decided to completely sort of like destroy and rebuild.
mm,
Um, what was happening was a lot of the clients that we had at the time who we were offering all these services to, who required me to have all these subcontractors, they weren't like the best clients in the world. And it was starting to become like a frustrating experience. And I feel like because I had already kind of moved back to the States and Philly and was like starting from fresh with that, I was like, let's
Mm,
start fresh with the business as well.
mm.
So what I ended up doing was terminating almost every single client engagement we had at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was like 10 clients and terminated, I want to say about 8 or 9 of them in just one day.
Wow.
I remember being at the barber. I was getting my hair cut, and I remember shooting a message to my finance guy. He's like, he manages our finances, and I was like, I want to terminate all these contracts. Send a notification out and a notice of termination. Like we're done with this. And obviously, once those were terminated, I didn't have the need for like 10 subcontractors.
Right.
We terminated all those subcontractors. Um, and it was like a good and bad thing because in December, most of the types of clients we work with are startups, like
Mhm.
software startups. Um, well, the software market last year took a really big hit. Like
Mm,
venture capital was down because of the economy. A lot of software startups were shrinking and tightening their budgets. Um, so offloading a lot of those clients wasn't the smart move because we really needed like that revenue.
mm,
But offloading 10 subcontractors was fantastic because
mm.
it meant a heck of a lot more cash flow and keeping a lot of cash instead of the wild expenses of having all these subcontractors. So it was kind of a tough spot because it was like I want to fire all these clients because they're not great clients for us, and for us to grow, we need to find better clients. And as soon as we terminated them all, the market just tanked.
Mm.
Startups weren't getting funding. VCs weren't they weren't raising as much money. VCs weren't throwing out like the insane valuations that you normally see. The economy
Mhm.
was like on thin ice. So it wasn't a great move at the time, but it helped me kind of go back to basics and really think hard about like what I wanted this to be, where I fit into it, and sort of regroup, I guess.
What? Let me ask you a couple questions about that because
Sure.
it's interesting and I don't want to put everything in a box, but like I've seen people scale up and then I've seen people go through kind of the reverse move of kind of scraping it all back down. But you're at the barber and you're all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm going to cut these 10 clients. What was it about those clients that just made you sort of get to the breaking point?
So the clients were getting funneled to us through an agency partnership. We had a partnership with another agency where this
Mm-hmm.
agency essentially would work with startups, um, and then pretty much like service out things that they needed.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say any random startup would go to this agency and be like, we need, SEO, we need content, we need web development, we need PR, we need branding, blah, blah, blah. The agency would have a bunch of people like me on deck to service these clients. So they were kind of like an intermediary.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunate thing about this agency was they, because they were an intermediary and we were sort of white labeled, we didn't have a lot of control over these engagements. We
Mm.
didn't have a lot of control over like interfacing with these clients, doing what we really wanted to do, billing, charging what we wanted to charge, things like that. And it was starting to get uh, not like hostile, but it started to become a tough relationship with this agency.
Mm.
Um, we were doing a ton of work for like not great rates,
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of stuff, like mostly back office stuff. And I was like, we have to get out of this relationship. It's just not a good relationship. The clients themselves were okay, but
Mm.
going through the agency as an intermediary was not. So that's what prompted me to be like, okay, we have to cut this off.
Great.
So I did, and it was a really like rash move because I wasn't really thinking about the future or the economy or pipeline, but they were funneling us most of our work. So
Right.
once that relationship was terminated, then it was like an oh shit moment. It's like, okay, well now what?
Yeah. There's a dynamic that I've run into over the years. Basically, I work primarily for myself, right? As a consultant, as a coach. Every now and then, I get an elephant. Like I get a whole company that's feeding me work,
Right.
and on the one hand, you want to be all in. It's like, oh, all of a sudden, I don't have to market, or I certainly don't have to market as much as I had been because I'm just getting fed work. But I've been burned by that a couple of times because if they leave, you kind of all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, now I've got to
Yeah.
crank up the whole machine again. And so I try to keep a certain proportion, that a certain amount of my work has to be direct to me, and then a certain amount can come from whether it's a big company or a couple little companies. Um, but yeah, that's a really tricky spot. And then, so how did you deal with that sort of reinvention of sort of spinning up the engine again natively?
Uh, I think it was like early fall, shortly after you and I started talking, or had that third conversation. I had met a guy who has a small agency out in Los Angeles, essentially doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
We met online, just like interacting on Twitter, like in SEO and content Twitter,
Mm.
and we started like talking offline and like having phone conversations and just talking
Mm.
shop. And he has like 15, 20 years of experience in this.
Mm.
Obviously, I didn't, but talking to him made me realize how much I did not know
Mm.
about this game. Where it was like, I'm this like young kid trying to build this agency, and starting to speak with him made me realize you don't know shit, and maybe
Mm.
this like
Wow.
isn't the move. So December was when I terminated that agency partnership. It was a weird place because building up to that, I was like, these are all things that I don't know that I learned from this guy. These clients we have through this agency, this new model that I've learned isn't going to work for them. We can't retroactively fit this new way of doing things that I've learned from him onto these existing clients.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, what they wanted or the services we were offering them were just very like binary, like very black and white sort of services. And what I was learning from this guy was incredible stuff, and it was less about SEO and more about marketing in general, broader
Mm.
marketing, and
Mm.
aligning things like SEO, which is inherently binary and like zeros and ones, paint by numbers, aligning that to business outcomes and revenue and pipeline. And that wasn't something I really knew. Like it was all new to me. So trying to fit that on those clients through that agency at the time just wasn't working.
Got it.
And so it was like these three things coming together at once, where it was one, the agency partnership was a bad fit because of the back office stuff. Couldn't pitch what we wanted to do sometimes, always had to go through the agency. Agency didn't pay on time, things like
Mm.
that.
Mm.
Then it was like, I'm learning all this shit from this guy that I've never known. And now I want to go off and like apply this stuff. We have to change our model. And then the third thing was we just couldn't fit that model.
Got it. Yeah.
So it was this like frustrating moment where I was like, I'm realizing I don't know anything about this stuff. This agency stinks. I just moved back to Philly and I'm sitting in that barber's chair and I'm like, let's just tear it all down. Just tear it all down and start new. And I felt really bad because it meant having to terminate a lot of contractors that we had good relationships with right before Christmas, which
Right.
didn't go over well. The economy and like the VC and startup space was not doing well. So it
Mm,
was like the coldest winter. It was not a good winter.
mm,
So I was going into the new year like, okay, there's all this stuff that I'm learning or that I realize I have to learn. The model that I was trying to do was really stupid. Trying to like build this agency when there's like this knowledge gap. I mean, I
mm.
think a lot of it came down to ego, where I was just like, we have all these clients and we have all these contractors and I'm this like hot shit agency and then you realize like, no, you're actually like an idiot. You don't know anything about this space, and yeah, you need to slow your roll.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Like, I mean, your willingness to acknowledge, even to yourself, what you didn't know is amazing. And the fact that you're even talking about this, like, yeah, it's a small public forum, but it's public forum. And I find so many leaders are not willing to sort of stop and say, wait a minute, I don't know this. And I'm wondering what even allowed you to do that privately with yourself initially when you started realizing, okay, there's a knowledge gap here.
I think, well, I think it was that if you really like want to be successful, I think you have to have this like inherent drive to be the best
Mm,
or go for being the best. Strive for greatness. So when I started talking to this guy who's now become a mentor to me
mm,
and realizing how much he knew and all the stuff he knew that I'd never really thought about, it was like, holy shit, like I'm some rookie and this guy's like Michael Jordan. What am I doing?
mm,
How do I learn this stuff? And if I want to be the best, like I have to kind of play catch up and learn that.
right. Yeah.
And at the time, I realized what we were doing, I was like building the plane as we were flying it.
Mm,
And learning all this stuff from him, it's just like, it just makes you exposed. It really exposes you to, it puts you out there like naked, where
mm,
you feel like everything you thought you knew and your ego was making you believe that you had it all figured out.
mm,
And here comes someone else who knows a heck of a lot more than you and has way more experience than you. And you can't even keep up in basic conversations with him because there's that much you don't know.
mm,
Uh, so it was like, okay, either I try to strive to his level and learn
mm,
all this stuff, or I keep doing what I'm doing, which really wasn't working out. Like I remember the call we had, like, yeah, we had a ton of clients and we had a ton of subcontractors, right? Our margins were awful,
oh,
awful.
really?
Margins were terrible. The margins were
Mm,
terrible. Our model was so shit. Rob, like I went back and was watching that conversation, and I was like, God, Nate, if I could just go back in time and tell you that, look, I know you think you're like hot shit right now because you have all these subs and clients and blah blah blah. The services aren't that great. Your margins are terrible. The model's terrible. Like you're doing all this wrong. I wish I could, but I
mm,
can't go back in time. But yeah, so I think if you meet someone who knows more than you really have two options. You can either just ignore it and let your ego take over, or you're like, this guy knows what he's talking about. I want to be this guy. What's it
mm,
gonna take? And I
mm.
think in order to get to that level, I was like, I have to destroy everything and rebuild from scratch.
That's amazing. Because I've seen so many people just hold on to the sort of the ego image. And I'm not saying that's wrong. Like I worked with really young startups, and the leaders, it's like they're in an echo chamber where they're getting reinforcement because of their role, and they sometimes confuse that with actually knowing something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like people are
Mhm.
paying you money, and every check you make, you're getting validation, which may be false validation, right? Um, so it's kind of amazing that you caught that, and that this guy, like that it was obvious enough talking to this guy that like, wow, this guy really knows something that I don't know.
I remember when we started interacting on Twitter, it was very like equals. We were equals. And then
Hmm.
once we took it off Twitter and started having like occasional phone calls, I could tell I'm struggling in this conversation because we weren't just talking about SEO. And I could talk about SEO and
That's
content
the
forever, but that's
yeah,
not what the conversations were about.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you became an expert in SEO, and then you retrofitted an agency around that, and
Exactly.
it sounds like his expertise starts at the core of an agency, right? Sort of basic principles about, okay, what does an agency do, and SEO may be one leaf or one branch of that.
It's a small piece of the big pie.
Hmm.
He honestly, he's a consultant, and I would say he doesn't even have an agency. His it's more of a consultancy through the
Hmm.
lens of SEO. But what they really
Hmm.
do is broader marketing and driving revenue through SEO.
Hmm.
And where I was just seeing it as just like a marketing function.
Hmm.
And it's not. And when we would get on the phone and have conversations, I would just talk about like tactics and stuff. And he was talking about broader sort of marketing and driving revenue. And these were concepts I just didn't know. So
Hmm.
I started to struggle in the conversations where I'm
Hmm.
like, I have no idea what this guy's talking about.
Right.
And like, I'm trying to puff my chest out as this kid with an agency, and he's going to sniff it out.
Right.
He's going to sniff it out. So we started getting closer, and he started asking me questions about like our own model and operations and operate. And he wasn't comfortable enough at the time, but he started to get comfortable enough where he'd be like, you should probably do this instead.
Hmm.
And I would hear him, but I wouldn't know how to like apply those pointers.
Hmm.
I'm telling you, like those conversations really brought me back down to earth and made me realize like you don't know a damn thing about
Hmm.
any of this. And if you keep going the route you're going, you're going to crash and burn.
Hmm.
Uh, so the best thing you can do is just try to get an education as quickly as you can, and try to apply that.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was a very humbling experience. Um, yeah, I think back on the conversations we've had, like that first one, where like I just got into Mexico, I'm this like SEO, and I'm like, you're an idiot. Like you have
Well,
no idea what's coming.
I think you have to be a little more fair to yourself. You were a specialist in SEO, and you did it well. And for people who want SEO and believe that's what they need, that works. But now you're, like I said, you're sort of moving to the center of the bigger issue, which is how do you grow business,
Right.
right? Which is a
And
very different question. Like SEO may not even be on the table. It may be.
exactly. I get on client calls now where they're like, we want SEO. And I'm like, well, actually, this doesn't really fit your business model. It's not going to drive revenue for you guys. You're a very early stage startup. We primarily work with a little more mature startups who have all these other prerequisites going on. It's very much about business now rather than we're just going to apply some keywords to a page and rank you. But at the time, I wasn't seeing those angles.
Hmm.
And so I want to say I moved back in December, and I think since December, once I torched like all those contracts we had in that agency partnership, it was very much rebuilding
Hmm.
and trying to really change everything about what we did, I even say we, there is no we. It's just myself now.
Hmm.
I have a couple subcontractors that I bring in like as needed,
Mm-hmm.
but it is just myself. And I don't even like saying that we're an agency. If anything, I'd say we're like a tiny little consultancy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's
And how's it going now that you're starting to apply the stuff from this guy? I mean, it may be too early to even say, right?
I'm smarter today than I ever have been in this career.
Hmm.
And I know so much more and I'm so much better, but it is like trying to cram in like a 4-year business or marketing degree in like 7 months time.
Hmm.
It is really difficult. It is really scary, but is the business a heck of a lot healthier this year than last? Absolutely.
That's awesome.
It's not even close. It's not even close because our margins are a hell of a lot better because it's just myself now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I charge more than I did last year
Hmm.
because the service I deliver is directly tied to revenue outcomes and driving leads for businesses. Everything is better technically,
Hmm.
but I do think it is more stressful because I'm rapidly trying to learn the things that like a management consulting course track or a business consulting course track or a broader marketing course track could have taught me that I never got.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'd say it's been a rocky year, but it's been such a great learning experience and exercise and being humble. And honestly, it's like you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have no regrets. This year was really rocky. Um, but I'll come out on the other end of it in a much better position.
Hmm. It's it's reminding me of when Tiger Woods like re-engineered his swing, you know, years and years ago, right? It's like, I think it took like a year or two of just like sucking,
Yeah,
just because you decide to change your swing.
yeah, I'm still I still last summer when we spoke, you couldn't tell me anything. I really thought I had it figured out, and then fast forward to now, it's like if you know something, please tell me. Like I want to learn as much as I can.
Mm.
And I'm so hyper aware of like little mistakes that I make or big mistakes that I make. Um, I feel very much like a student of the game.
Mm.
Whereas last year I was like, oh, I'm here and I'm at the party. Like this is a piece of cake. Like,
Right.
and it's like complete 180.
Mm.
Um, yeah, that guy, he is still to this day my mentor.
That's fantastic. How
Um,
how often do you guys talk?
we text every day now.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Amazing.
yeah, about this time last year, we just started like interacting on Twitter a little bit here and there. Then some like really occasional phone calls. Um, but then we just kept getting closer where it was like, okay, video calls and then like phone calls and then like texting. But I had to get really comfortable with the more he's going to speak to me, the more he's going to realize I am not as put together as he may have thought, like on social
Hmm.
media.
Yeah.
And I had to get really comfortable with that. But he's a few years older than me, and he's got thrice as much experience as me, so he can call BS on anything.
Right.
So I think he discovered pretty quickly that Nate's actually like pretty wet behind the ears when it comes to this business stuff. He's great at the SEO portion of everything, but in terms of the larger
Yeah.
picture of business, he's not. So it quickly developed into less of a equal friendship and more of a
Mm,
mentorship.
mm.
And I'd say he's like a big brother now.
That's fantastic. And it sounds to me like he didn't rub it in your face or anything or make you feel uncomfortable about that.
No, no, he never did, and he still hasn't. He has high expectations of me, so there is
Mm,
some of that pressure. Um, but no, he's only ever tried to help me. If I have
mm.
a big email, like an important email to send, I'll send him a screenshot first, just to
Wow,
get his
nice.
eyes on. So he's like, don't
Mm,
say this, say this instead. He
mm,
has helped me very much fill in the gaps in terms of the business part of things, the management consulting angle of things, uh, soft skills. Like I've
mm.
always thought that I was a pretty personable guy and decent communicator and stuff like that. No, like I didn't realize all the angles there are when it comes to interpersonal communications and soft skills with like C-suite executives.
Mm.
And yeah, there's a lot of nuance there that I didn't know. So like instead of like taking like SEO courses and stuff, I'm like watching like McKinsey consulting YouTube videos and like
Right.
reading stuff like that because that's arguably more important. Um, so yeah, everything has changed.
That's awesome.
I guess I feel like I'm rambling, but like
No, it's great. And I love that it's a new horizon and that your feet are on the ground and it seems like you're getting back, like you said, sort of the basic principles and what really works. Um, because this, I think if you have a big vision, you can sell people on a story, and that can fuel your business for a while. But at a certain point, you have to see whether your delivery is matching the story, right? And so I think you had a lot of momentum from your success in SEO that was carrying over into more general consulting.
I agree. I remember how I used to be on like calls with prospects.
Mm,
I used to be very not like cocky or arrogant, but very confident, very
right.
like smooth operator, very confident. Rob, I'm telling you, I get on calls now and I am so nervous.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, so nervous because again, it's like if you just want to talk about SEO, fine, I can talk about that all day, like whatever.
Mm,
But they're not looking for SEO; they're looking for revenue.
mm,
So having conversations with C-suite around how this marketing function is going to drive revenue and align the business to search, it takes quite a bit more finesse. And
mm.
you're not communicating with like general marketers anymore. You're communicating with CFOs and CEOs and the board. So that's new for me.
Mm.
Um, so I've had to learn how to take the work, which is SEO and content, and translate that into communication that will resonate with C-suite level executives.
That's a huge piece, is that the people you're interacting with is different. You're speaking to a different population now.
Different population, and each one has their own sort of personality and communication style. So it's
Yeah.
a constant pivot where it's like some of our clients, I can communicate X way, and other
Mm,
clients, I have to communicate my way. And it's like something that I would traditionally just put in an email. I can't do that anymore. I have to put a deck together. And it's been an adjustment. It's
mm.
been an adjustment, and had I not decided to kind of like destroy and rebuild and try to learn all this stuff, I'd probably still be stuck with like low value clients who, yes, like maybe collectively they paid the bills, but they weren't ideal clients. I wouldn't have grown.
Hmm.
I wouldn't have learned all this new stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and I would have never gotten like an ego check that I think I definitely needed.
Hmm.
Um,
I mean, this sounds really, it sounds like it's interesting to you. It sounds like you're engaged, like very passionately engaged in what you're learning, which is amazing, right?
I mean, I have high expectations. I'm not saying like I want to be the best at this, but I want to see at the table.
Right.
And you're not going to get a seat at the table unless you're working with really big clients who are actually like doing real stuff in the world.
Hmm.
And you're not going to get a seat at that table unless everything that you're doing is aligned to their business and
Hmm.
growing their business. You can be the best SEO in the world. If you can't be able to translate what you do to those executives, you're not enjoyable to work with. Um, you're only going to go so far.
Hmm.
And my mentor he's told me a million times, he's like, some of the clients we have, we don't even get them the results that they've wanted, but they renew anyway because we are so enjoyable to work with.
Wow.
And he keeps telling me, he's like, it's relationship building,
Hmm.
it's building trust, it's building buy-in. The SEO stuff and like the actual work is secondary to all of
Hmm.
that stuff.
Hmm.
It's relationships, theater, consulting,
Hmm.
and that's it.
Wow.
And I'm sitting here like, what? Like, what? Like, don't we have to like drive results and stuff? He's like, yeah, of course you have to drive results.
Right. Right.
But like,
That's a part of it.
that's a part of it. But you can take like the best SEO on the planet who's going to drive all the results in the world. If they're not fun to work with or enjoyable to work with, they're not going to work with that person.
Wow. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah. And he's hammered into me many times like, you have to remove your ego from this.
Hmm.
You are not, nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about you. And are you charging more than you used to? Yes. But ultimately, you're still a rounding error to these
Hmm.
big companies.
Hmm.
So you're nothing. They have a million other priorities going on. So you have to like kill that ego. And I think this entire year, since I terminated that agency partnership, has been one big exercise in just letting go of that ego and being like, you don't know shit. Here's an opportunity to learn. You can either take this or not. So yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's the year of obliterating your ego. But what's interesting is you are somebody who learns things and who builds things and puts things together and tests them. So, you can take away from what you did before, but, I still remember our first conversation where you're just like, you got to keep throwing shit at the wall, right? And that's how you learn. And I think that's a theme.
I mean, I appreciate that. I still look back at this conversations though, and I'm like, oh, Nate, like, oh, you're such a
And
little newbie.
we're gonna look at this one the same way, right?
We'll probably look at this one the same way too. There's like a theme to all these calls. I think like the first one that I had with you, I was so excited. I was like so energized, and I was like, this is amazing, and like the world's your oyster, and like go chase those opportunities, and you can do anything. And it was
Right,
like
right.
that. And then the second call was very much like I was finding my footing, and I was still enjoying everything, but I remember being like kind of stale in Mexico and like I'm focused on the business, like blah blah blah. It was a little more serious.
Right.
And then
Exactly.
I that third call we did, I can still tell like how low energy I was on that call because I remember at the time being really stressed. It's like all these
Mm,
subcontractors, all these services, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, even though I thought I knew what I was doing. And it was like, this is not great. And I remember kind of like being miserable because it's like, yeah, we have all these subs and we have all these clients, but like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I feel like I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. Like, um,
You
go
know,
ahead.
well, I was just thinking like there's been a theme in my career, which is, I'll pick a direction or a goal or something that I'm interested in. I was talking to somebody about this recently. Like when I was first getting into coaching, it had been a dream for so long, it was all I wanted. And I spent all this time learning and studying how to coach and everything like that. And then when I started coaching, I was like a couple months in and I realized that I wasn't having fun. And, so we pick this vision and we think it's going to be amazing, but when you get there, some of it's going to be good, some of it's not going to be good, and then you make your next best guess, right?
Yeah.
And again and again and again, just like travel, like some cities you love, some you don't, but
Just like traveling, but and just like you said, like you can keep like iterating on it,
yeah,
but it can be exhausting. It can,
yeah,
it can be
and
exhausting.
well, and I think, if we have this metaphor of different destinations, I think one destination that people get sort of pulled into is the idea of scale. And it's like, oh, I want to scale, right? Or, I want to grow the company, I want to do this. And I find that two things happen there. First of all, the business model changes at scale, so it may or may not work. And then a lot of leaders just don't enjoy the scaling of all the day-to-day kind of bullshit you have to deal with, right? Um, so that's why I see a lot of leaders all of a sudden strip it down. There was this big guy in the NLP world, one of the founders, and at one point he had like 50 or more people working for him. And then there was this moment he said, "This is ridiculous," and he fired everyone. And he had one assistant. That was it.
Right.
And I've seen that many, 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 many times over the years.
I think, I mean, I'm glad I'm in good company
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I remember when I did it, there was a bit of like, oh man, like I'm such a loser. Like now it's just like me and like a couple other guys. But eventually I realized like, why did I even have these people working? Why was I
Mm,
paying these? And no offense to any of them. Like I appreciate all of them.
mm,
But geez, they cost us a ton.
mm,
And it was like, what for?
mm,
Like, and again, I think it was ego. I think it was ego where it's like, I'm hot shit and I want to be this agency now. And I'm just going to hire all these people. I'm going to spin up this brand name and we're going to be like a real legit agency. And eventually you realize like there was no point. There was no
mm,
point. Like I think I had an operations manager. She's great, but we terminated her in December. But she had been with us for like 6 months
mm,
to kind of like transform our operations and efficiencies and stuff. And I look back on it and I'm like, you had no reason to hire that person. Like
mm.
you like what operations did you have?
To simplify.
Like what operations did you have to simplify? It was really just you not being an organized individual that
Mm,
made you think you needed an operations manager.
mm,
It's like you could have handled all this stuff yourself if you just perfected the model,
mm,
understood the work more. Like there was just no reason for it. But I think ego was getting in the way of just looking at myself in the mirror and telling myself, you don't know what you're doing. It was
mm,
easier to just go get subcontractors to kind of fill gaps where, yeah, I just look back on it. It's like, why did I hire all these people? Why was I offering all these services? And it's like in that quest for scaling and being this
mm,
bigger thing than you really are, uh, you threw
Well,
so much.
I remember you. I remember part of the path was that some of your existing clients started asking for additional services, right?
Right.
And isn't that what sort of kicked off the agency
It
in a way?
was. It was. And I mean, knowing myself, like I'm never gonna say no. If there's something bigger and better, like I think I'm always gonna go for it. But fast forward to now, like I'm not doing that. If
Mm,
I get on a call with a prospect and I'm like, do you have a web developer? Do you have a content team? Do you have a designer? And they say no, I'm out.
mm,
Like, no, I'm sorry. You're obviously like not at the stage where my services could even benefit you.
mm.
Um, if a bunch of stuff has to get changed on the website, who's going to change that stuff? If you don't have a
Right,
developer, it's just going to sit. If I come back to you with this 3, 6, 12-month content strategy, if you don't have writers, what are we going to
right,
do? And
right.
so that's where I'm at now. It's really just myself. I have a
Mm,
copywriter who
mm,
she's fantastic. I bring her in on projects where she's absolutely needed. But most of the clients that we work with now, they have existing marketing teams. It's really
got
more.
it.
I think this is where the consultancy aspect comes in. It's more about dropping into their existing organization that already has a marketing function and helping them build out their SEO and content function.
Mm,
So they're like, we have developers, we have content writers, we just don't know how to align SEO with business outcomes, and we need
mm,
strategic help and guidance. So that's
mm,
where I come in and I'm like, here's the strategy, here's the plan, get all this stuff done, and we're good to go. Whereas before it was like, we'll do all the grunt work, I'll bring in all these subs to it wasn't ideal, I guess.
mm,
And I think that's the direction that I want to keep going in, is less of an agency model and more of a consultancy model,
mm-hmm.
where a client or a startup already has the resources. Now they just need the strategic guidance
Mm.
and building out that function of their business.
And to come all the way back to the beginning of the conversation and being in Philly, is this taking so much of your consciousness that you're not even sort of thinking about the question about where to be?
Um, if I thought that
Sorry.
like I didn't have any time last summer,
Wow.
it's not that I don't have time. I do have time. Like I was in San Diego
Oh,
uh
nice.
a few weeks ago for a couple
Yeah.
weeks,
Yeah.
uh, seeing my brother. And I was in Mexico like half of June. I went mountain climbing in Veracruz and then stopped in Playa for a little bit. So like I have time,
Great.
but right now this is just all I care about. I just want to get better. I want to learn as much as I can. I want to be the best that I can be and
Mm,
do it right this time. And I feel like this is a great opportunity for me to where I'm matured enough to realize there's so much I don't know.
mm,
If I want to continue on this path of being successful and independent, I'm gonna
mm-hmm.
have to learn all this stuff as quickly as I can. So has Philly been like disappointing? Yes, but have I also like taken advantage of it? Not really. Most
Mm.
of my days are working and then just like thinking about like
Thinking
the
about
business
working.
stuff and learning and reading. Like,
Yeah.
so I think it's been like a necessary like learning experience. The other thing about Philly that is kind of disappointing is that there isn't like a huge startup culture here. Um, it's not a very like tech forward city, like an Austin or a Miami
Mm,
or a Raleigh or a Denver,
mm-hmm.
where you have a lot of software startups, you have a lot of VCs, you have a big like tech ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Philly doesn't really have that.
Mm,
And I remember when I first moved back, it was like January or February. I was looking for like meetups and like organizations here for like startups and stuff. Because the city funny enough, the city raised like $9 billion in venture capital a couple years ago. It's like the first
Wow.
time Philly ever cracked the top 10 for like top 10 cities with the most venture capital money raised. So I was like, okay, this is like a promising sign.
Right.
There's all this venture capital money here, like, but I moved here and I'm like, hey, where are these like tech founders? Like, where are these
Right.
VCs?
Where are they hanging out?
I'm like, where are they hanging out? Like, I can't find any of them. So I was getting frustrated, and I read this article in Philadelphia Business Week about some guy who was starting this like low key like private like after hours bar. It was like a members only club.
Mm-hmm.
And he interviewed the Philly like Business Journal interviewed him, and he's like, I want to start this members only bar that's very exclusive. I want to cater to ambitious, like career oriented working professionals in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds great. Like, this sounds like something I should join, networking opportunities, maybe meet some other people in the same space as me. So I applied for membership. And he did another interview a few weeks later as they got closer to their opening. And the Business Journal asked him, like, what sort of demographic specifically are you catering to? And he said, I'm not interested in online influential career people in Philadelphia. He was like, I'm really only catering to lawyers and commercial real estate agents and doctors and local sort of influencers. And I read this and I was like, what?
Right.
Like, that's your idea of like
influential business. Yeah.
influential business. Like, I get it. Like, yes, lawyers and doctors and real estate agents, very successful and like are great for the city and stuff. But like, for a city that just raised $9 billion in venture capital, like, what about tech founders or like software marketers or like engineers or like, where are those people? Like, what is going on here? So I had already submitted my application. They got back to me. They're like, hey, you're approved. Like, pay us this exorbitant membership fee. But after reading that interview, I was like, this isn't for me.
Wow.
So, and honestly, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell's going on in the city. Like, where's this money? Where are these VCs? Where are these tech founders? Where are these like engineers and marketers? I can't find them. So it's been frustrating. Yeah, so that's
there are a couple of different ones here. I mean, Soho House is here. It's in a couple cities. There's one called Zero Bond here that's newer. That's interesting, but immediately sold out. Like, it's really, really hard to get in. So there's some places like, and then I thought a friend of mine invested in one that I went and visited, and it looked like Burning Man. Like, it was like a bunch of people lying around on carpets. And no offense, but yeah.
But New York has like a decent scene. Like, New York isn't known as like a startup hub like in Austin, Texas, or Palo Alto.
Right.
But there's a lot of founders in New York. There are a lot of organizations. There's a lot of meetups. There's a lot of people building companies in public. Like, it's happening in New York. And it's like, Philly has this weird thing where it's like, it's such a blue collar city historically. And it's very well known for its health sciences. Like, we have University of Penn and like blah, blah, blah. That's great. But it's like, you're holding on to these like traditional sort of industries and values. But you have all these VCs here raising bajillions of dollars, and you just like, there's this apprehension to like move into the future. And it's like, I feel like there's an opportunity here for Philly to become like Miami, which is red hot right now because there's so many tech founders and VC firms down there. And it's like, Philly just like doesn't want to, it's like resisting going in that direction. So I don't know. So honestly, like, half the time I'm working on client work or working on the business itself, or just like sharpening my own skills. If I want to get out, I just go on a flight and get out of here. But
we got to get you up here.
I would come up there. I have
Yeah,
colleagues in New York. I've been wanting to go up there. I'm absolutely down to take a train up there and go up there.
yeah, yeah. Um, all right. Well, I think that's a good place to tie a bow on this installment. And I can't believe it's been a year,
Yeah.
but that is crazy, right?
Yeah,
Does
because
it?
the first two were 6 months apart,
Okay.
and then
And
between
then there was a
this,
break, I think. I mean, there was a bigger gap in between the second and third. I'd have to go back and look at it.
there was a bigger
And
gap. Yeah.
I'll link all of them again. So each one will have all of the links for people who want to watch the whole thing. Yeah, and it was funny because I was in Mexico City the last
That's
time
right. We
we
were
spoke.
emailing a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've been down there I think another once or twice since then. I'm sort
Okay.
of going back and forth a couple times a year now. So yeah,
Hey, you can't beat it. I think I might head
yeah,
back for like a little bit in October.
yeah.
Uh,
That's a good time. Yeah,
yeah, October's nice. I was there, like I was telling you back in June, uh, which was a really nice time. But um, yeah, Rob, so much has changed. Oh my gosh.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me here.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. I appreciate it as always. It's been a pleasure.
great. Talk to you on the next one.